Hello everyone, it is Friday night and it is Weekender time once more, and we've another jam-packed show to take you through the weekend. This time round I feel old, because we have old hammer, old rules, old favourites, and even a few old ones. So sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this week by Ben, Justin and Shay. Hello Shay.
Hello.
You're a big boy now. Shay was off last week because he's like a teenager or something.
Well, he is now 21.
Right, legal in some states.
Yeah.
Well, you can now drink in America.
Wow.
That was my main goal all along. At 21, go to America and just die.
It's aim low, achieve your goals.
Damn right.
Like Homer Simpson said.
I mean, if you never try, you'll never fail.
Good times. We are coming up hard and fast on a theme week. Just to let you know to keep an eye out for this next week. The charming people over at Corvus Belli are doing ENDSONG.
Yes.
For Infinity. So a upcoming Infinity book that will introduce a whole host of new things for stuff and bits. I'm not sure how much is out there, so I'm not saying anything because I know quite a bit. And I think I'll get punched. I don't want Carlos to punch me.
Well, needless to say, we have a very excited Killian on the show with us.
Yeah, well, that's true. There's a Killian there to actually understand what Carlos is presenting. And in some cases, pointing things out to Carlos. It's amazing watching them back and forth. But you can keep an eye over on the Infinity Hub on tabletop.com, or it will be splattered in a big, massive bar, I imagine, right across the main page.
Yep.
But we have unboxings, book chats, and then we go through every faction and how ENDSONG will affect them. And there's even a little follow-up video, which isn't going to be part of the theme week, if memory serves, but will be coming out before Gen Con.
Yes.
About stuff. That's all I can say about that, because I know there's definitely things in there I can't say. But yeah, so keep your eye out if you're interested in Infinity. ENDSONG is coming and should be a lot of fun. Very interesting.
Yeah, and
believe we even have a trailer.
We do have a trailer, so let's check that out.
So there we have it. If that hasn't whetted your appetite, I don't know what will. So yeah, join us next week for a whole host of Infinity fun and games. Yeah. There's also a bit of an update from the National Trust.
Yeah, there is.
Sterling work.
Yeah, so this one was a bit weird, but it popped up on my Facebook, and I was like, you know what? I should probably mention this to people because there are probably folks who could go along and check this out and see what it's all about. So anybody who doesn't know Sutton Who, it's the wonderful place where they found that amazing ship burial from the Anglo-Saxon period. Well, the folks at the National Trust at Sutton Who on the 30th of July are going to be doing like a Anglo-Saxons and the Age of the Anglo-Saxons through Wargaming event at the location. So you'll be able to go along there.
Massive. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
You'll be able to go along there, see a huge army of miniatures, play some games, have some fun, move your troops around on the battlefield, see if you can, be a great general. Maybe you'll be buried in one of those ships in the future, who knows? And there's also going to be a little tiny painting thing as well. So if you go along, you'll be able to get stuck in and do some painting and maybe take away a free miniature at the same time as well. So if you have a National Trust membership, that's obviously great because you can go along and it will be free to get in. And the event is actually free. But obviously, if you're going along normally, general admission you have to pay for. But then beyond that, the actual event, Wargaming the Age of the Anglo-Saxons, is free there as well. So watch out for that at the end of July. It's just a little bit too far away from me, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
But for anyone who's over there on the sort of eastern edge of England, make sure to go and have a look at it and see what it's all about.
You can contact Sutton via their ship burials.
I will ring up the boatman.
I love the fact it's the Festival of Archaeology as well.
Yes.
So that sounds like a lot of fun. I like the fact that it's getting wargaming out in front of people in a historical context as well. So going, here's what the book looks like, here's what they would have looked like, here's how games are played, here's wargaming. Because there'll be people who walk away from that, either themselves or friends or family that they've dragged along with them, and go, oh, that's interesting, I'll give that a go. Look at all those lovely square bases. I'm
very interested to see what game it is. And also what miniatures they're using, which would be pretty cool. And I love to think that there's maybe like one guy on the team who's like, I like miniatures. Do you mind if I bring my armies down and we play some games?
It's that, or it could be there's I imagine there's local clubs.
Yes,
in the area, and probably when they seen that there was the Festival of Archaeology, when something was going on, it'd be like a case of we can come along and show off this in sort of in context in situ as well. So, I would love to go over to that. I won't, unfortunately, but I would absolutely love to.
It sounds really cool. So if you can go,
gaming and history, amazing.
Yeah. If you can go, worth going to check it out, I think. So
definitely. Right, that's you up to speed with what's coming up. But right now, here and now, we're going to be taking a look at the Indie of the Week. This week's
I don't know why that's a surprise. We always
this week is a cute little one. It's Satyr Art Studios. It's a very, I was going to say, tiny little indie. But the reason it's tiny and ickle is that Drew mostly does sculpting for other people. So he's a commissioned sculptor. So this website gets filled when he has an idea or when he's got free time or when he fancies doing a bit of something. You go, I really want to have an X from one of my armies. The rest of the time he's doing work for other people, but it does mean you can actually get in contact with him if you've an idea for a miniature. I know some people have had stuff sculpted to fill holes in ranks and bits and pieces. But he has a collection here of old Hammer styley fantasy figures. So stuff that would be not inappropriate for Whamster. If you're playing anything up to sort of 3rd or maybe even 5th edition, I suppose I'll give you 5th. But the reason I wanted to show this off is a couple of demons, which are limited runs. And I know from a Facebook post earlier this week that he was saying he only had 99 left of the uncleanliness.
35 left now.
34. Oh God, yeah, it's been flying. So this is the reason I wanted to show this particularly this week before these disappear, because they are corkers.
Super gribbly. I love it.
Look at all his little maggoty bits.
That is so Blanche, sort of old school. Yeah.
It looks not dissimilar to the one that's on the front cover of Lost in the Dams.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I put the book back behind my thing and I can't get it out. It was up there last week when I was talking to Robin and John. It moves around. Things move around in my room. I like to keep it
of their own accord.
I know there are people who try and work out what's on the shelf when I reveal books and stuff. So I keep shifting stuff so they can never get a real tally of what's going on, because I'm like that.
Keep guessing, Jerry, just what you want.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous, though. I mean, in the best type of in the best way.
That one's gone. All right. Okay, well. Too late.
That would be like a great kind of mix between, you could either use that as something like a keeper of secrets, or you could use it for like a beastman army, or maybe as a corn demon or something as well. Very nice.
anything. I mean, there's plenty of other. There's things with the likes of Rain and Hell and
Well, yeah,
various
Brain in
other.
Hell, yeah.
The Doomed on the way as well, where you require evil, creepy manifestations of something ungodly. Hashtag something ungodly. Then it's always good to have a look at these small companies, because when you have really weird games that require something a bit more, not bespoke, but set in the world, it's a great way of going, well, this is how I envisage my world, and here's how I'm going to do it via the medium of these weird bits and pieces.
Could you open the Nightmare Company?
I could open the Nightmare Company. I'll open the expansion pack as well, because they've got shields.
I'd like to see the Retired Adventurers pack.
Oh, I don't know about that now. It's a shame Lloyd isn't with us this week, because you'll see in a second if I do this and then go, let's have a look at I mean, as far as Undead Halberdiers go, and they've got that classic. I've got 50 of the old GW ones that these would blend in perfectly, because they've got the old school kettle helm and
the skull shields are very reminiscent of that period as well. So where they went with like faces and skulls and all sorts of things to represent the shields.
A big belt buckle that looks not dissimilar to that, actually. But yeah, there's some quality photos in here. Wow. And I'm just disappointed that Lloyd isn't here to share in that with us.
It's in movement.
It is. Yeah. This is them. They've just popped up out of the grave.
Action
They're shambling around the place, and that's how the world works.
Gorgeous.
But the Nightmare Company itself is a little beauty. From
I like to think of it as
a little drummer.
I like to think of it as a kind of riff on the Cursed Company. So,
well.
Yeah. Lloyd would have loved this, the big bat wings on the helmet.
Yep. Well, Lloyd's not here, so Lloyd doesn't get a say. No vote for you, Lloyd. But yeah, the I suppose commander with the Sally helm is not dissimilar to Victor Kruger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got this, could be a White Lord with his
so cool.
Yeah. I really like them. They're a corking set of figures.
Wow.
The Crypt Wraiths especially. Zip.
Wow.
Those are so lovely.
Crypt
and
Wraiths,
so in keeping with the old vibes of
Barrow Whites, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, ethereal, you say, coming right through the hill into the side of my unit. Oh God. Oh, it's all gone wrong. But they're really nice. Metal cast, in case people were wondering. These are obviously just
very old school.
So you can see them.
Just as Sigmar intended.
Yeah. Very old school. I think you'll find that metal still exists. It's not like they're made out of Bakelite, Justin.
Are they? Do they tend to be one piece, or are they sort of two? Or?
Majority are. If they're simple enough sculpt, it's a one piece sculpt. So only if required will unusual cuts be made, because at that point you're starting to make more work for yourself, especially when you're putting together big units.
Oh, I love these.
They
brilliant.
Those are fabulous.
I mean, it's like you get back to town to discover a load of dead orcs sitting in a room piled up, and it's they wandered into an old folks retirement home. Cohen the Barbarian and friends just go, I don't think so.
This is what it would have been like to be Felix Jaeger and company if they'd actually got through the end world.
Ever been able to retire. This one is particular. I swear I've seen that before, with the big nose, the swept back hair. And I think it was animated or possibly stop motion.
I love the lady on the right who's clearly swinging a bag of cats. It's definitely a bag of cats.
A bag of cats.
Honestly, I just love the guy in the middle. He's just finished making breakfast.
Oh yeah.
Here's the orcs coming, and it's just like, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
Somebody's about to get frying pan to death.
Yeah.
Boom.
I think I'm getting the hand of this.
He may or may not have a hernia. That's not a bag of cats.
That's clearly a crazy cat lady.
No, not at all. But yeah.
It's either that or it's the melee equivalent of a blunderbuss, where it's just full of random stuff.
Let me know who she is, because that's annoying me.
I'm going to shank you, young man.
I still haven't worked out who the green head was from that Sigmar figure yet. Although many people have given their 2 cents. None of them are what I was thinking of. Someday I'll find out, or let you know. It will be apropos of nothing, by the way. I'll just say it in the middle of another news story, and then you'll have to work out what I'm referencing. You know, how these things work.
Oh my days! I've seen the bloodthirsty fiends down below as well.
I know you have. That's the other reason, Mr. Yellow Golden Demons. So we have some Holy Order. So very good if you plan on playing a bit of Mordheim or Warhammer equivalent games. If you fancy a Marienburger.
What's nice about this is that with the old world coming up, there are so many people that are like, I really want to make a unique force that kind of matches the time period that they're going for in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And this would so rock for that kind of time of the 5 emperors, 3 emperors, 3 emperors. That's the one.
Although I think I noticed a tiny little bit of sci-fi down the bottom there.
There is, but hopefully we'll get bored before we reach that. So,
oh, the crossbowmen are great.
Wow, that's cool.
Come get some.
He's even got the little thing, winching it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which improves rate of fire no end, just say. Gives you a bigger draw pull on your crossbow as well if you're not having to manually pull it into place.
Brilliant
the big
stuff.
pavis on the back. That's some of the halberdiers. Wouldn't look out of place for a lot of sort of medieval Renaissance games as well. So like that, because it's that period where it was fantasy, but it was the European fantasy that that Workshop was building on.
Yeah.
So they didn't look so outlandish that they wouldn't just work if you needed. I mean, you'd need to take some of the spikes off that kettle helm possibly, but apart from that, go for your guns. Or in this case,
it's, as has been talked about when it comes to Games Workshop and Warhammer, a lot of people who were doing the sculpting for the range were historical wargamers, and so everything they did was linked to historical wargaming in some way or fashion.
that is true.
Oh, the old Hammer personalities as
Harry's
well.
We're looking at you.
Oh, those are zombies. So good. Yes, man, they remind me so much of the classic zombies that I saw when I was younger, and the old sort of ghoul set that you could buy before they got all sort of changed into the new version of them and stuff.
With spiky back hair.
Yeah.
Loving the individuality and all of this.
Like that one's got a spade. So he's about to get slammed in the head.
I can dig my own grave again.
He's just looking to dig up a mate of his, still losing money. That's why. He died first, unfortunately, but now all bets are off.
You owe me for that rat kebab.
Rat kebabs. Nom, nom, nom. Good eating on a rat. And here, obviously, some very creepy wizardy types. Creepy.
Yeah.
I like the priestly fellow at the back.
Yeah. Is he
we're not evil?
Is he a wizard of Moor, or is he a necromancer? Who knows? Yeah.
The line blurs when you hit that death magic. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think the only difference is whether or not you get caught.
That's true. Yeah.
If you don't get caught, you're a wizard of Moor. If you do get caught, time to leave the city. Bad evil necromancer.
Yeah.
Go, go, go. It's more of the type
amazing.
Of witch.
Like a cool Bretonian style knight there, maybe like an Empire mercenary or something, or a Kislevites perhaps. Yeah,
big fat northern.
What's cool about I do a lot of Warhammer Fantasy roleplay as well, and especially if you use these alongside things like the Dunkeldorf range, I think these would be brilliant for like building and bolstering a collection of sort of roleplay characters if you wanted to play in a certain way, of course.
Yeah.
Bloodthirsty fiends.
Yes. Hang on. I'll just do the other undead first, and then we'll swing our way back to the. We'll swing our way back.
Dwarves.
Okay, how about that? Shush! You're just the worst.
Can't take
you kids anywhere. Skelly calf.
Look at those janky old calf.
It's time to get hit by the cheapest calf in the game, and you will not notice you've been hit. They do more damage whenever they impact and they fall apart and just shower you with bones than actually through combat damage.
Yeah. They're like undead caltrop packs. They explode on your shield wall and then you walk over the bones and hurt your feet. Yeah.
I also appreciate the fact they are referred to correctly as Skellybobs.
Skellybobs,
yeah. That is definitely the way.
A lot of people don't do that. They think that they've got called skeletons or something, like from Jason and the Argonauts. Stabby.
Nice. I am in love with this range. It's so cool.
Oh, it's a corker, isn't
Archers.
it? Yeah.
What I would like to see is they're obviously at the draw stage, you know, where you've got knock, draw, loose. So possibly having a few other sets in the future, so you could build out a full rank of them. Look, bagpiping Skelly Bob. Not that type of bagpiping, Shay. Easy now.
How do you play?
Magic.
Magic, yeah.
Magic.
It's magic does it.
Mm.
There's one playing the umbongo.
Skeleton champion there as well.
Oh, I wonder how stable that's going to be.
Oh, it'll be fine. It's made them like this for hundreds of years, or at least tens of years. That does need to be yellow, though. It's all
big
undead.
Yellow banner.
Big yellow banner for your undead. Speaking of big and yellow.
Those are nice. I love
fiends. Them. Bloodthirsty fiends.
Yeah.
How yellow would they be, Ben?
Oh, they'd be so yellow.
That may
know more about this on Sunday.
Oh, are you talking about it on Sunday? Okay, right. I was going to say just never explain it. That also works. We'll start off with some adventuring style-y, rogue tradery-esque type people. So, Space Pirate Bonnie. Good old Anne.
Nice. Wearing a Tau drone as a hat.
Yes, she is. Going, if you hand me over the money, I won't have to shoot you in the face and take it off you.
Yeah.
Because I don't like bending down because it hurts my back. And then Pirate Morgan.
Oh, that's cool that they've linked him into the into historical pirates and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With his laser pistol and personal jump pack. And also, lest we not notice, massive medallion, huge mutton chops, and some slash silk on the sleeves.
Of course.
Because that is the best way to look. Well, I mean, when you're a rogue trader pirate,
you've got to do it with some style.
Yeah. You don't want people to think you're half-assing this.
If you're diving into like Planet 28, which is that really awesome kind of sci-fi skirmish game that was done as like a little indie project, these would be perfect for your main characters for that and stuff.
Oh, no.
Classic squats.
The Dwarf Teamster range. I'm not saying that whenever I think of Space Dwarves, I think of this. But what I am saying is, if I don't see this, they're not Space Dwarves. Look at them chomping cigars on their skyboards. Skyboard in particular is very good because the squad with Skyboard in Rogue Trader was just excellent. I think it just had kill, kill, kill written on his, because they had deck art on the boards. And even the big power loader at the back. I mean, they're just absolutely cracking.
See, I have to wonder, does that power loader just make him about the size of a regular human?
Might make him the size of an ogre, I think, possibly.
Okay.
He might be about the same height as a regular human, but he'll bulk bigger.
They just need to shout rock and stone as they're burying through the earth.
That one. There's a little mining helmet and massive concrete saw. Somebody's about to get
brilliant stuff.
Absolutely hammered. And then, if one skyboard isn't enough, have all the skyboards.
All the Mohawks.
Yes.
They definitely all have to be wearing mirror shades as well.
Yeah. Just do it with like chrome effect.
Yeah.
The skyboards all separate so you can do all your deck art on them. Sweet. Like candy.
Nice.
Wow.
That's a combat blade. That'll teach us.
He's just going to point his board
and utilitarian.
Down. Yeah. Just going to point his board down and fly into your chest.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. I'm coming for you, you scumbags.
This is one of the things that I think so many people love about what Oldhammer represents as well, is this idea of it being just a little bit like funny as well as it being like a serious world and that kind of thing. Having the fun element in there where you're telling like quirky, weird stories with characters and, miniatures that don't necessarily make sense, but just feel right. If you know what I mean?
These are quite odd.
These are what the Imperial Guard were. This is the Imperial Army. So I used to have quite a large force of lead figures that look like this with that little badge, the little round roll that you would mark the company and stuff on, different dividing lines. It's the first Imperial Guard plastics were the Imperial Army, and they all look like this. This is fantastic. I'm really annoyed I don't have the army anymore. I swapped it with a friend years ago. But yeah, little jump pack versions.
That's very interesting.
Looking hilarious. Death from above.
Warren would be making some joke about the things being up their bums, but
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's not here.
These are great.
Rank and file.
Yeah.
Including rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a rocket launcher and not a missile launcher, Shay?
Because it's firing rockets, not missiles?
No, because the word missile contains miss, and if you ever shoot with a missile, you're going to miss with it. So you always refer to it as rocket.
Is that what the stormtroopers in Star Wars use?
Yep. It really is. And they're
I love these. Those are kick-ass.
Just in case we run you over, we want to make sure you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
So we would apply spikes to our tires.
All-terrain. You know, when you're driving towards the enemy, you don't want to suddenly hit a wet patch in aquaplane. That'd be the worst thing ever. Oh, you'd be even worse than some exploding skeleton cavalry. Although you might do a bit more damage than skeleton cav.
I'm curious to see what their Xenos look like.
Zoom.
Oh, yes. Classic old school termagants and stuff, yeah. Brilliant.
Well, at this stage, that was how the original Tyranid warriors looked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Wow.
Yeah. Get some.
Why buy Leviathan when you could buy the Bug Hunt set?
I can't think of a reason.
Yeah. Love it.
There we go.
Wow.
Screaming out of the pages of the past.
I love the idea that from far away, you'd be like, oh, it's a little nest of baby birds. Oh my God.
God, it's ugly.
They're flocking this way. Referencing one of those kids' films, like what
it's
I do.
In the bone.
Anyway, yeah.
Wonderful.
So
can we just look at the ladies of chaos at the top? Just a little bit. There they are. There.
Oh, I know. Open the booth. Since we're here, since you asked so nicely.
Ah, so good.
Now you might think, Shay, that that's a sci-fi one in this pack of fantasy ones. But the nice thing about the old fantasy was it existed within the 40k universe, and occasionally stuff would fall out of the warp or be gifted by the Chaos Gods, where they just went, I'm just going to take that power fist and give it to this little fella here. Or
Skaven with the power fist and stuff. Yeah.
So
I love that.
So still technically fantasy. Good times.
I remember always thinking that Warpstone was just plutonium.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's entirely possible.
Yeah. I love that you've got like the female version of Slambo there as well. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sort of taking nods from classic miniatures that people love and just being like, I'm going to put my own twist on it. Oh,
there's a whole
amazing.
Squad.
There's a new Escher gang done.
Yeah.
Escher or Eldar Pirates or whatever you want.
Dark Eldar, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose they do have the pointy ears.
Mm-hmm.
Could just be body modification. You just don't know.
Oh, yeah, the horns could be just like things they've body modded, yeah.
That's the beauty of madness.
Or just use them as Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah. Excellent find, Jerry.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I might need a set of those Leads of Chaos.
Yeah, there's some cracking stuff in there. I'm trying to think where.
Time to go buying. I think it just collects all the different things together.
Yeah, I was looking for the doohickey. There is a page where it tells you about sculpting. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It tells it down.
It looks like he's from the US as well.
Yeah. I think he's up northeast direction. I was in Michigan, but I know it's not that. But anyway, so if you're interested in actually getting something sculpted, bespokely dokely for you, maybe
I quite like how you could misread his rates thing because he has a kill rate or a kill fee. I was like, are you also a hitman?
You never know. My God. Got to supplement that income in the economy we're living in.
He gives them lead poisoning.
Spoilers. Anyway, that is Satyr Art Studios or Satyr, depending on your choice. We're going to move on and have a look at some news after the swish.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, we are back and we are kicking off the news. Something big from Mantic Games.
Oh, yeah.
Their Firefight game, which is their larger scale sci-fi war game. I'm going to say larger scale. There is theoretically one bigger, which is Warpath, but it's still lurking in its sort of secondary editioniness and hasn't really had much love. So they've been focusing more on Firefight since the second edition launched last year. And it's very much a stepping stone. If you're coming from Dead Zone, which is the small skirmish game, then it shares a lot of similarities with it rules-wise. And if you're coming from the Fantasy Kings of War game, it shares a lot of similarities rules and stat-wise. So there's sort of strands to the game that's shared with both of those systems, which means it's a good evolution, a nice stepping stone. And this is sort of 40, 50 models, couple of vehicles type of thing thrown on the table, go nuts. Really, really like the rule set. The second edition was a massive sea change for it. And as you can see, there's a couple of little videos. There's a little chat with Ronnie and Dan about what their plans are. And then there's also the Matt and Rob did some introductory videos to Firefight. But long story short, they are not revamping it. Every year, Kings of War gets what's called the Clash of Kings book, where they sometimes add new units, new ways to play, scenarios, list balance, tweak things. The first of these for Firefight is coming called Command Protocols. Now, this one is a one-stop shop, so it contains all the rules, plus the list balancing, plus the new lists for things like Maison Labs were added. If people wanted to play GCPS mixed with Plague and Aliens that have been
so cool.
Played with, experimented on, mind controlled, would never say that. Anyway, Maison Labs, they're great people. Wouldn't say anything about them. They're not always listening. Don't worry about it. But it also includes a new way to play, which is called Annihilation. So if you're brand spanking new, don't have anything else, you can pick up all the rules with all the updates in one brand spanking new book. I imagine going forward, they will just do the Command Protocols as the single little book, and the same as Clash of Kings, where you're just getting one book with just the slight or the new updates and that sort of thing. But the interesting thing for me, because I may have bought a few vehicles during Warpath, and they're not easy to fit into a list. If anybody's seen, a few weeks ago, I played Paul in Firefight up at the club and talked about it on the XLBS, and we only had a couple of vehicles aside as far as the big ones went. He had a tunneler, I brought a Hulter APC, and then threw a load of Rekier wielding flamethrower nutbag Forge Fathers up and set fire to his whole army. It was amazing, but they're expensive and it's tricky to do. So Annihilation is coming up with not just new scenarios for the Annihilation game, but also a new way of building your lists. So instead of having these as support choices that you have to unlock through infantry, you can now build mechanized lists that will allow you to you unlock infantry and other support options through sort of a chunky vehicle or two in your list. So it flips the list building on its head somewhat, specifically for these Annihilation missions. So if you want to play a bit more of a vehicle heavy force, you can. It'll be interesting to see when the rules come out how that impacts gameplay, and is it viable to play a mechanized list against a non-mechanized list in a scenario, and vice versa, because I'd like to have the options, and I'll probably try it anyway. But as you can see here, there are some new vehicles accompanying this as well. So
tanks are cool.
Tanks are cool. So Mantic have collaborated with a couple of companies before. Archon obviously are now doing their plastics, and their new plastic stuff has been amazing, and they have this Wolverine tank.
The Wolverines, yeah.
So Mantic are borrowing it. They've also, if you look at the back, there's a little APC variant at the back. That's a resin upgrade pack that Mantic have made themselves to allow you to feel them as APCs. So you can have sort of defined command vehicles and stuff like that. They've also been working with Warlord games because they've released Armada using the Black Seas rule set from Warlord. And in this case, they've gone and borrowed some Gates of Antares hovery flyer types to use as supplementary forces for the Enforcers. The Enforcers already have a big hulking ship as things stand. However, it's more for the mainline troops. These are the Enforcer Pathfinders, so sort of recon type people who get out and about. So interested to see where the rules go with this.
I think it matches the aesthetic really well, actually.
Yeah, they fit in nicely.
Especially when it's painted up in the Enforcer colors. That really helps things a fair bit, I feel. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they're sort of branching out. It also means that they can go right ahead and push more vehicles without having to go, well, you'll get rules for them now, but you may not get a vehicle for a couple of years because they've got to budget it in. There's already a couple of plastic kit vehicles out there that they work with companies already.
I think it links quite nicely into Mantic's philosophy that you can buy their models, but you don't have to in order to play their game. You can just go up and get whatever you want in order to represent your troops. So them sort of bringing in other kits from different companies is kind of reinforcing that idea, which is great for people who are just collectors and want to pick up nice, cool things from different companies. So.
Wow, you get a lot of Marauders.
Yeah, but is that a lot of Marauders, or is that not?
That's a lot of Marauders.
So the new book, which is, I don't know if it's hardback. The mock-up is hardback.
It looks hardback.
I'll preface it like that. The mock-up is hardback, and it's £30 by itself. The book is going to go into the old starter set, which has got the Marauders and the Enforcers, standard Enforcers, and Peacekeeper armor. Filth. So you'll be able to get that. However, they have announced that there is going to be a new starter set as well, which is possibly leaning more towards the vehicle side of things, with the Vermin and the Forge Fathers. I really don't need this, but I know what price these vehicles are. And therefore that makes it too good to pass up, is the way I look at that. That is the old Firefight cover. However, it is the new
you get the
new rules in there,
the new rule,
the new
in
one,
there. So don't worry about that. These, by the way, these little tunnelers, they are absolutely gorgeous and utter filth in game. If you're playing Vermin, you need to have at least 3 of those, at least, possibly substantially more. Anyway, well, they've announced that there are the vehicles coming for Forge Fathers and GCPS and Astrians and all sorts of things. Some of them are a bit further off, so we're not entirely certain what's coming yet. Have seen new upgrade kit for the Forge Father half track. So there's like a new assault ramp type door at the front. They already have an APC, so I'm interested to see what rules that will get. Vermin have also been touted with getting something new. Again, not sure, because this bit of kit, that front drill section can be spread out and you can have a massive cannon put in there instead. And they also do a second section that you can actually chain them together like a land train, extend it for APC carrying capacity. So it's already a quite interesting little kit as is. I imagine they're probably not going to make a whole new vehicle for them, but maybe they'll do some additional resiny parts or something for a change in that.
So you can mess around with the kit a bit more.
Yeah. They've also said with Annihilation that they'll be adding a few new rules for vehicles. So currently vehicles work just like anything else. They've got a load of wounds on them, or they can take X number of damage and then they'll break. I think they're adding weapon and sort of hull damage type affair. So the idea is to still keep the game very quick and easy to play, but make the vehicles more of a feature in the Annihilation missions. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I don't like a bookkeeping heavy game. So there's that, but as long as it's not too big an imposition, I'll be happy to see it. They'll be adding all the stuff to the companion apps, well, when the book comes out, certainly, but maybe before then. And I know the companion tracks things if you play in game, because I tried doing that on my phone, and I could mark things as activated and mark them as broken and stuff. It was like clicky buttons. I still put tokens down on the table because otherwise I'd forget who I'd clicky buttoned. But I imagine they'll probably add a feature like that into the app if you use apps. Otherwise, I'll just be putting dice beside them to go what's knocked off. They did throw up a little interesting thing at the end, though, which is a roadmap for the rest of the year. So the rulebook update is, well, it's up for pre-order already. I think it's at the printer and due to come out end of the month. The new 2-player starter set likewise is up for pre-order and coming. The vehicles, of which there are several sort of upgrade kits to things like the mules and hornets, and a new, well, you've seen the Antari flyer drone thing for the Enforcer Pathfinders, but then there's also like a big radar dish CNC command and control vehicle upgrade for the Enforcer's main flyer. So those are on the way, but the others, the Astrians, Vermin, Forge Fathers, are going to come a little bit down the line. I think September, October time is all the new terrain from, they had a Kickstarter start of the year, so that's new plastic alien trees and stuff.
The modular stuff that you can build up into different levels and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
I've seen the first test shots of those yesterday, actually. They look quite nice. I like it. And then this new releases at the end of the year with the big, nasty Enforcer symbol on it. So not sure what's going to happen with that in December.
Do you want an army of Iron Men? You can have an army of Iron Men.
You can have them already. So now I'm wondering, what are they going to give them? They don't really deserve anything else unless I'm playing them. Last time I played them, I got vermined off the table. So I need to go back. Clearly, a bit of list building is required.
What I think is really nice about this as well is that it feels like they've really gone in and solidified the identity of what Firefight is now as a game, rather than the Warpath universe feeling very much in flux. Because Dead Zone was always very much a thing, and you knew what it
Dead
was.
Zone is life.
Yeah, and then Firefight and Warpath were kind of like nebulous almost. Yeah. Whereas I think this has been a really good. Things have gone in the right direction for Mantic in terms of designing the game and sort of bring it and sort of putting the right message out to people, like this is a great alternative to something like, for example, Warhammer 40,000. And as Ronnie said in the video, like the only thing that's stopping it becoming bigger is more people playing the game. And like everybody knows that it's great fun. We've talked about it in multiple times. We talked about it last year when we did the awards as well. And so like having a game like, Warpath out there as like legitimate offering for people to dive into seems like a really cool idea, especially because so many of those core factions have been expanded to have loads of different kits for them as well. So you know what the aesthetic's like. You can pick up the official models if you want. You can go down the route of picking up different things and playing around with them as well.
If you've got kit kicking around from other companies. So like you see there, Gates of Antares, if you want to run your Gates of Antares as Enforcers. Go for it if you've already got the stuff sitting there. The rules you can get for free on the companion anyway. So you don't even have to pay anything to buy in. The only thing you'll need is D8. They've actually got a big box of D8 pre-order as well, which is 27 D8 for a tenner. So I hit a calculator up and it tells me 37 pence of dice, which isn't far off bargain bucket price anyway when you're buying dice. Because that's the big thing is the game is very easy to get into. It's very easy to play. You can use stuff you have. You can get the rules. You just need to pick up a set of dice if you don't already have tons of D8 kicking around, and you're good to go.
And let's be honest, we're gamers, so we have all of the dice.
Well, I do, but not everybody's me. So sometimes you do, but then there's dice rolling apps on phones and stuff. So if you want to play it for literally no cost, get the free rules, use models you've already got, and give it a go, because it's interesting. The change of second edition, we talked about this last year, so I won't go into it too much, but the focus on Firefight rather than on Warpath. Warpath wants to be grand scale games, but they didn't have the infrastructure and they didn't have the kits there to support it and to drive it. I think focusing on Firefight and getting it embedded and getting people playing it is the best way to go. And also with the change of Firefight being this blend of Kings of War and Dead Zone, means the rules are much more accessible than they were in the second edition version. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. It's also, I know we don't talk price because prices vary and people buy from the internet and then you have import taxes, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I'd been looking at those flying drone type things on Warlord's website for something entirely different a while ago. And they're like £29 a kit. The Enforcer starter set, that little strike force, is 2 of them, plus all the Enforcer models, is £70 or 75. So it's £60 for 2 vehicles or 75 quid for 2 vehicles plus 20 odd Enforcer Pathfinders. That is a ridiculously good price.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I don't need any more Pathfinders. I literally have too many of them, but I'll still do it that way because I'm using them for something else. I can push them into a plague pit and laugh. Anyway, yeah. What's up next, Ben?
So moving from the realms of sci-fi, we're going into fantasy with some more awesome miniatures coming from the folks at Parabellum for the Worlds of Conquest. Kicking things off, we have a brand new Founders exclusive miniature, which is available on limited release. They'll only ever make so many of these for you to dive into, which is very cool. But this one is a wonderful diorama piece vignette showcasing St. George and the Dragon, which is obviously linked into our own myth and legends from our own history, but also has been blended into the tales from the 100 Kingdoms as well, which I think is really nice. And so it kind of gives you this kind of a fun real world analog to draw on, which is cool. I can see a lot of people diving in and picking this up and having a lot of fun painting this because it looks absolutely gorgeous. So the base obviously shows the kind of writhing dragon or the serpent creature rising up to strike at the Knight St. George, but then you've obviously got the knight striking down as well. And I love that they've got that kind of saintly image of this, which kind of ties back into a lot of art and sculpture based on St. George and the Dragon that we've seen as well, which is really cool. So again, some real world analogs to what's happening there too. So this one was by Stavros Halkias, who designed this, and there's going to be 750 pieces available. It'll come in its own collector's box, and the Knight St. George can be removed from the base as well if you want to use it in your games. Obviously, it's 35mm scale, so it's a little bigger than kind of standard 28mm a lot of people play as well, but obviously works nicely with the rest of the Conquest range, which is 35mm as well. And yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing to see what people do with this when it comes to painting it, because it looks gorgeous. And
his hair's the wrong color.
Yes.
His hair should be a ginger.
It should be a ginger.
They painted him here, like
A Georgian ginger.
Say. Let it go.
So
yeah, it's a spectacularly
yeah.
dynamic, I suppose,
yes.
model.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you don't collect the 100 Kingdoms, I mean, there's some work in that.
So it's available to pre-order right now. Will be available fully in August, so not too long for you to get your pre-orders in with Parabellum. And if you're not picking up anything like the St. George and the Dragon, I would highly recommend going to check out the Artisan series as well, because they do some really nice stuff in terms of big giants and all sorts of stuff and things like that. But as well as the large diorama, we also had some new miniatures coming out for the Nords. So one of these is and I want to say it's pronounced Thane, yeah.
the G can be a Y sometimes in Scandinavian to annoy me specifically.
Yeah.
Especially when Duolingo says I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
Are you still learning Scandinavian?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a new officer that you can throw into the mix for your Nord armies. As you might have guessed by the design of the model, they are kind of sort of bringing in a little bit of that kind of Byzantine sort of look to them, which I think is quite nice. As if you were off fighting for another kingdom somewhere as a mercenary, perhaps.
Guardian.
Yeah, a Varangian Guard. So these are the slightly the upper crust, perhaps, of Nord society that are very loyal to their leaders, their jarls and stuff. And so they will join your units, and they will be able to give you extra defensive abilities when you're playing your games, which is quite nice. So they'll be able to hold the shield wall, as it were. So you've got a new officer model there for the Nords. But then my favorite, oh my God. The Nords have some amazing dual kits, and I think these are another winner for me. So this is the Ulfhedna, which can also be built as the Bearsarks as well. So these are two heavy, one light and one heavy melee unit for you to drop it into the Nords for when you want to turn everything in front of you into mincemeat. You can go with the Ulfhedna, which is the kind of dual weapon wielding warriors there you can see with their skull masks and things. And they're essentially just a big whirlwind of blades that'll sort of dice and mince everything that comes up against them. But if you want to form into you want to form up a charge and smash a shield wall to pieces, then you want to have the Bearsarks at the front with their axes at the ready, charging into the midst with those big heavy axes, and they should make easy work of a lot of armored individuals that your enemies might be able to bring to the tabletop. And again, just amazing sculpts for this dual kit, with really nice kind of like headdresses and all that kind of thing. So I love the big bear pelt that you can have on the back of the leader and stuff, and the skulls and everything as well. These, alongside some of the stuff that they've done previously, like their kind of raiders and stuff for the Nords, are making it very hard to ignore picking up an army to dive into Conquest, I think, because these just look amazing. But yeah,
I don't want to worry anybody, but the Ulfhednar have 8 attacks per stand.
wow.
That's obscene.
Yeah,
Murder.
Yeah. And Bloodlust is a special rule, so they can perform a charge even if they've just arrived as reinforcements on the battlefield that turn.
Extra murderiness.
Oh, yeah. Coming in on the flank, right up there, having suffered no wounds because they haven't been on table to be pinged away by your opponent with blickies. And then they just come screaming out there and do you up like a kipper. And then they also have Lethal Demise. Do the Berserks have that as well? They don't, unfortunately. Lethal Demise is whenever you kill one, then you take an automatic hit against yourself. So as they go down, they take you with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
I'm good with
blender.
that.
Absolute blender right there. And they're the Berserk Friends, only 5 attacks per stand, but
only 5.
But they do have cleave of 2, so they are your hard hitters. They're going to chop right through anybody's heavily armored force. Yeah. I'm not liking any of that.
But more gorgeous stuff for the Nords there, and the folks at Parabellum have promised that there's even more stuff coming down the line as well. So,
of course,
if you're looking for a fun fantasy game to try out, maybe go and have a look at what's available for Conquest, if that has piqued your interest. There you go.
Yeah, you check out the Parabellum Spotlights as well, where I talked to Constantinos.
Yeah.
Did I mention that one of my ideas made it into the world of Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Thank you.
Geek flax.
You have to watch the Spotlights to find out which one it is, though. But anyway, right. Who's up after the Nords?
So next up, we're going to be looking at Wiglaf Miniatures, who are producing some stuff in 18 mil. So we've talked about these guys in the past as an indie, and we've generally looked at their releases and done unboxings and all sorts of different things. So Wiglaf Miniatures is the work of Daniel Mersey and Mark Copplestone, who have designed a wonderful game. Well, Mersey has designed the game Age of Penda, and then Copplestone has worked on the miniatures range in 18 mil, which is set for kind of playing out awesome Dark Age war games on the tabletop. Look, Jerry's showing it off.
Of course he is, because Jerry has everything.
Yes, very true. So the newest releases that have come out for this are 2 sets. So you've got a set of Anglo-Saxon princes and warriors. So we were talking a little bit about Sutton Who at the start of the episode. Maybe these are some of the people that would have been buried here, but they've been designed to match up with the kind of warriors that have been found at particular historical sites. Like, this is what Mersey said, so you've got Prittlewell, Taplow, Marlow and Lakenheath. So if you're kind of into your in-depth history for the period, maybe you want to pick some of these up and use them to represent particular characters. As I say, these are 18 mil, so they've been kind of designed as kind of like travel wargaming size, which I think is quite nice.
Travel 28s is what Dan
Travel
calls them,
28s,
because the amount of detail on them for 18s is simply ridiculous.
Just amazing, yeah. Like Copplestone's an amazing sculptor. He's fantastic, yeah. But then, as well as the Princes and Warriors on foot, you've also got a new set of mounted warriors, which Cherry was particularly excited about. So you get a whole bunch of these in the set. So you get 6 heroic warriors, and then you also get the option to run the hero Ecgfrith of Northumbria as well. So if you're into designing particularly historically themed forces, you've got an option there, which is quite nice. For those people who haven't looked at it before, Age of Penda is kind of looking at representing the 7th century on the tabletop. And they've got Anglo-Saxons, Vendels, the Irish, Welsh and Picts, and plenty more to come, no doubt, as well, when it comes to what they're offering. And they're available from the Wiglaf website, but also you can get them from North Star as well, which is nice. So you've got a couple of different options for where to pick them up if you want to play the game. So
I thought, did we have a chat with Dan about it?
I don't remember.
Or did I talk to Dan about something else?
I think you talked to him
everything
about.
blurs after a while.
Didn't you talk to him about one of his Rampant games?
That was it. It was
Yeah.
second edition Lion Rampant.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the problem is sometimes I go off on tangents and chat to them before and after for extended long time. So, but yeah, the game itself, you can get a little paper copy for old people like me, which is in big letters so that old eyes can read it. You can also get it for those creepy e-readers like what the kids have. But it blurs the lines between a war game and a board game. So it's very easy as far as accessibility goes for picking up a game, especially if you don't play historics and you're going, well, I might fancy playing something, but I don't want to get massively invested in it. I don't have time to do 8 foot of Saxon board or blah, blah, blah. Because these are 18 mil and you can base them how you want, you can essentially use them like little 40 mil markers and maybe play it out on just a board that's the size of a coffee table. You just need to be able to draw a grid on it, essentially. Sharpie works well. Don't tell your mother. Take the tablecloth off. Sharpie the grid on. Tablecloth back down. But it means it's very accessible if people want to try a different period and a different style of wargaming as well.
Yeah.
And those figures from Mark are just stupendous. Yeah. Even if you're not buying them for Age of Penda, they're definitely worth checking out for other gaming goodness.
Definitely.
Right.
Bonus.
We should move on before I get completely distracted by Age of Penda and start wondering where they are behind me.
This is
next?
So we're going to be moving a little bit further forward in time, sticking with the kind of idea of historical wargaming, but in a sort of more modern sense. So the folks at Spectre Miniatures have been working away on some new miniatures for you to use in their game, Spectre Operations. They very much, a lot of the time they've focused on doing lots of kind of modern military stuff. So thinking about, wargaming in the Middle East and in sort of Africa and all that kind of stuff. But they're kind of going a little bit close to home, perhaps, and playing around with some criminal elements for some smaller scale conflicts that aren't quite as world ending. So they've designed 3 new sets for you to go and pick up. The first of these is the US SWAT team, which you can see there, which was actually designed, as is most of the stuff from the guys at Spectre, with the help of military professionals and that kind of things. But these ones are actually inspired and that were worked on alongside an officer in Texas who actually works with SWAT teams and things. So these are as accurate as you can get them, which I think is really cool. So you've got them all with all of the appropriate weapons and accessories that they might have if they were going to be storming a building or dealing with various criminals. You've also got the chap there at the front with the riot shield as well, which is quite nice for soaking a little bit of fire that comes your way, perhaps from a shotgun or two. They also get to ride around in that pretty freaking ace Bearcat, which is the big vehicle behind them. Who knew that the US police force had such military-grade vehicles? But there we go.
Oh, there's some amazing videos of it online. There's like a couple of stoners in a car. And I'm going to say stoners, they could be surfers, who knows? But anyway, one of these pull up alongside them and the wheel's about the same height as their car. And it's just going, dude. Oh my God, dude, look the size of that, dude. And I can't remember the name, so I'm just going to substitute Punxsutawney for it. Has Punxsutawney gone so bad that we need one of these? It's like wow. So it must be a little hole in the hedge type of town. But anyway, they are amazing.
Yeah, so you got those, but then obviously you need some criminals for them to go up against. And so as well as the SWAT team, there's also this set, which I think is the best of the 3 that's got released as part of this new set. So this is the heist crew. So if you're going to be going and diving into like a proper Hollywood style affair on the tabletop, these are the team to pick up. I love the suits. I love that they've got a little bit of swish to them, carrying a whole host of pretty badass criminal weapons. They've even got the duffel bag in there as well.
Mr. Pink.
Yeah. So if you're going to be running a proper, awesome, maybe even Hollywood stylized game of Spectre Operations, this is the way to go. I love the idea of maybe you actually play as the heist crew and you're trying to get out of the bank with all the money. And then the GM is playing as the SWAT team who's trying to hunt you down. So you don't actually know where they're coming from. And then you have to try and like get out into the streets, fight your way through cars and all sorts of different things.
Really nice way of inverting it, because generally Spec Ops plays with an umpire, somebody doing it. So you're normally breaching and going in and you don't know where people are going to be. I like the idea of coming out.
Yeah.
start of the bank and attempt to get out of the play, or the jewelry store and attempt to get your way back.
Very
to
heat.
just reminds me of Perfect Heist 2.
Yeah.
These guys look amazing.
They are so cool.
But
I would use the Payday gang. From
Yes.
the games Payday.
Yeah,
That would be amazing. I'd love that.
You could paint all their masks, different colors and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
To match
like
it.
Mexican wrestlers.
Like luchadors.
Yeah.
Hang on, this needs repainted as luchador masks.
Yes. Yeah.
Does he well? Well, I'll throw it in here for sheer novelty value. Hassle-free do a really nice John Wick figure in the same scale. I'm just saying,
I
just
think
John
Spectre
chewing
did
his
a
way
Baba
through.
Yaga model as well, actually. So yeah,
there you go.
maybe
In
that
case
comes back.
You should
Yeah.
have a wee nosy, see if that's about. Not the only criminal elephants, though.
No, yeah. So they've also got another set which is called the Criminal Elements Gang, which is the one you can see there. So if you're going to be doing a little bit of a slightly more low grade crime, perhaps these guys. If you're going to be smashing in kiosks, maybe these are the ones for you to go for. You can pick these up. They're armed with a range of different weapons that have maybe just found. Some of them have got slightly older guns. You've got AK-47s. You've got shotguns, and for there's a Sten. Yes. There's also a dude with a sledgehammer, because when all else fails, just hit the guy with a hammer.
Does anybody make a 28mm bonfire?
See, these remind me of what you would expect the guys to look like that were stealing ATMs around here at one point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are
Literally.
ATM heist crew guys.
Yeah, literally, criminals would steal a digger, dig the ATM out of the building, put it in a trailer, and off with it.
Yeah.
The guy with the sledgehammer has the right idea, because your vest may be bulletproof, but it's not blunt force trauma proof.
Yeah, you might have a shield, but I will smash your shield to pieces with my.
Here's the other thing: he won't get deadly force used against him because he's not carrying a firearm.
Well, that's true.
There you go.
Oh, I don't think that's how
He
that
might
works.
just get tasered. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe tasered twice for good measure. But yeah, so these might be a good option for you to sort of play around with these as actual enemies to your games or something like that. As I say, there's a whole host of really fun miniatures from Spectre that sort of cover the bevy of sort of modern wargaming. If you've ever played a modern warfare video game and you want to play tabletop miniatures, this is such a good way for you to dive in, especially because of the game master element that me and Jerry was mentioning earlier. Like having that in there as well, where you've got someone who can throw surprises at you, is really fun. And it means you can play some really interesting scenarios where you never really know what's happening as you go around the corner and stuff as well. And it's also very quick and easy to play, which is always good. So yeah,
Always handy to have, yeah.
So,
Saves you getting bogged down. You can spend your entire time thinking about the important decisions, like who has the diamonds? Tell me somebody has the diamonds.
You need to randomize it with a dice roll at the beginning, so you can't remember who you gave the diamonds to, and then everybody on the team playing as the heist crew is trying to get away with the diamonds, thinking they've got them in the bag, but who knows? Double crossing. One of them could be Sean Bean and get shot at the end.
Oh dear, poor Sean. Right, we are going to move away from criminals and SWAT teams and take a look at Wizarding Duels.
Yeah. So go for something a little bit more whimsical. There's a new couple of sets coming out later this year for the Harry Potter miniatures adventure game from the folks at Night Models. They've been producing miniatures for the Harry Potter universe, the Potterverse, for the last little while, and they're now going to be bringing a new sort of edition, new game out, which is called Wizarding Duels. The focus of this is to try and revamp things, make it quicker and easier to play, and give you some new options for diving in and having fun with the world of Harry Potter. The core set for Wizarding Duels is available to pick up, which comes with models for Harry, Hermione, and Ron, alongside Hedwig. You've got to have Hedwig in there. And then on the other side, you have the two Death Eaters and He Who Shall Not Be Named, Voldemort. I've done it now. Oh well, he's coming for me. Oh, well. And you also get everything else that you need to play in the game. They've kind of, if you were thinking of a game to kind of use as an analog for this to sort of match up to it, think like Warhammer Underworldsy style level of gameplay where you're playing with a handful of characters per side.
I was getting that vibe just even from how the game board is laid out.
Yeah, so you will have a band of heroes or villains. And during the game, you will obviously be trying to take out your opponent with magical spells. But the other thing that's nice about this is they've got like a really nice randomized deck of objectives for you to go for. So you'll draw objectives from that deck, and they might be do a certain amount of damage or cast this particular type of spell. take this series of objectives in the right order and that kind of thing. And there'll always be an equal number of each type of objective in that deck. So when you dive into play the game, you're always going to get a really nice balance of different things for you to do, which aren't just dealing with your enemies and kicking their ass with spells and casting Avada Kedavra on everybody and killing them. The other nice thing as well is that they've taken the combat and moved it over to a deck-based combat now. So you actually flip cards to add to your spells to cast them and things, which is a really nice thing to sort of go away from dice, which I think is quite nice. And each of the cards that you use within that deck will sometimes have modifiers for them as well. So it might give you extra power or do more damage or have some strange effect like flip or move somebody around on the tabletop, which I think is quite nice and kind of plays into the idea of maybe not casting the right kind of spell and things going a little bit weird and stuff. So that's the starter set for Wizarding Duels. But on top of that, which is kind of like your new entry into the world of Harry Potter, there's also 2 expansion packs as well. So these, it should be noted, all of the miniatures that you see here are going to be available as single piece plastics. So you'll just be able to get them and just start playing the game. There's no assembly, just paint them and have fun if you want to, or just play with bare plastic if you prefer. So this is the Magical Masters set, which comes with loads of characters from Hogwarts staff, which is probably the worst staff in the history of schools. How is that school still going? It should have been shut down a long time ago.
I mean, but my most hated character is right there.
Who's your most hated character?
Umbridge.
Oh, yes. You must not tell lies. Get rid of Umbridge. Yeah, I want everyone to just gang up on her. But anyway, you've got Albus Dumbledore in there, you've got McGonagall, you've got Sirius Black, you've got Hagrid, you've got loads of fun characters from the Harry Potter world on the good side of things. But then on the evil side of things, you also have the Servants of the Dark Lord. I feel it's a little bit harsh on Snape that he's in there, but there we go. But you've got folks like Snape and Fenrir Greyback, and you've got a couple more Death Eaters in there too. You've got Bellatrix Lestrange as well, and Peter Pettigrew. So if you're a fan of the Harry Potter universe and you want to dive in and have fun on the tabletop, they've got this whole new game for you to dive into and have fun with. Loads of new miniatures that have been designed as well. So all the stuff that came in the new set was new, which is quite nice. But then you've also got all the stuff in these different boxes, which are all these single piece plastics, which is fantastic for people who just want to start playing games quickly. I'm really eager to see what happens when it comes to the gameplay side of this, when we dive a little bit deeper into how it plays, because it sounds like a really fun system.
I think the change from dice to cards makes a lot of sense because it's very difficult to get magic across on the tabletop. It's such a visual thing normally. Just rolling a D10 and going 5 up, take 3 wounds all the time would get very stale very quickly, whereas being able to mix and match and upgrade or potentially fail to cast a spell based on the cards seems interesting.
There's maybe a bit more flavor to it that way.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, because they're always weird incantations that you mispronounce and stuff, aren't they? The idea of having just a lot of syllables on cards that you're having to try and put them together to chain the words to make it particularly powerful would be good. I imagine they're not going to go that far, because that way lets madness.
It would be quite nice if you had to shout Expelliarmus every time you wanted to do Expelliarmus or something. So, or
for fans of the hit TV show Nightmare, that is very popular with kids, just go spell casting and then have to spell it out.
We already know what Jerry's Patronus would be, and it would be a squirrel. So that's already sorted.
I want to know who's the Mandalorian bat.
That's a snitch. So it's
Mandalorian bat.
Not a Mandalorian bat. It's wearing a T helmet.
I do see it now, and I will never unsee it.
Okay.
This is the way.
No Mandalorian bat for me then. Okay, well.
Check out for that. Pre-orders available now. Will be coming out later in the year. So,
All right, we have one last news story. That's very, very interesting.
That's what you did there.
Jerry, your levels of happiness.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago now, we didn't get to talk about it last week because we were doing the Spring Clean Challenge, which is infinitely more fun.
Important.
But, for those who want to play the Horus Heresy, but on a tiny, tiny scale, Legions Imperialis was announced for the Warhammer Worlds. So this is essentially a new take on the Horus Heresy, but also an old take in many ways. This is them sort of embracing the idea of epic, but in the scale matched to Adeptus Titanicus and Aeronautica Imperialis, those games are around 8 mil in scale. The old Epic was obviously about 6 mil, so this has obviously been changed just slightly. But again, obviously, the other big focus of this is that it's not being played in the grimdark future of 140,000. It's being played in 30k, so the Horus Heresy. You can get yourself the big new set for Legions Imperialis very soon. Actually, I think it's about August by the time this lands, which is quite, not only a month away. And inside the set, you're going to get a whole host of new miniatures. So for the Space Marine side, you've got, it's quite a few, command squads, tactical legionnaires, assault marines, support legionaries, legion cataphractes, terminators, the contemptor dreadnoughts, the Sakaran battle tanks, and the predators. And then on the solar auxilia side of things, which is quite fun for a lot of people, you've got the solar auxilia legate commander, the auxilia tactical command sections, the auxiliaries themselves, the auxiliary flamers, the Velitari shock troops, the Charonite Ogrins, the Aethon heavy sentinels, which are pretty new for people to dive into and have fun with, Lehman Russ battle tanks, and the Malkador heavy tanks as well. All of these can be used to create a single army if you want. So maybe you want to sort of pick up the Legions Imperialis set and be like, I'm just going to make an entire army out of this one box. Or you could split it with a friend and you could do a little bit of mixing and matching and play around with a couple of Space Marines per side, or even go with just all Solar Auxilia versus all Space Marines. You also get the 2 big Warhound Titans in the set as well, which will allow you to dive in and use some Titan-esque badassness on the tabletop. This also means, as I mentioned earlier, that you can use all the stuff from Adeptus Titanicus in this game. You can use all the stuff from Aeronautica Imperialis in this game as well. So if you want to have drop troops coming in via planes, then you can do. If you want to blast things to pieces with the Titans, you can do. All of the terrain that was previously released for Adeptus Titanicus is also going to get re-released again, so you can get that a lot easier than this time around, and that will also be very good for playing these epic scale games on the tabletop. Not 6 mil, because it's 8 mil now. And yeah, if you're looking to play an entirely different version of the Horus Heresy on the tabletop with huge battles being played out between armies of loyalists and traitors, you can now do that. It certainly makes sense from a business perspective for them to do the Horus Heresy, because it's a hell of a lot easier. You only have to make Space Marines and Imperial Guard or Solar Auxilia. You don't have to make lots of Xenos races. But it'll be very interesting to see where they go with this in the future. So yeah.
On that note, somebody had pointed out that the Xenos races for Aeronautica, and I don't know if they did any for Adeptus Titanicus, they've all gone last chance to buy.
Have they? Oh.
Yeah. Don't want people playing with their 40k stuff.
Can't use your Eldar. No.
That explains why I had a big order of Aeronautica Imperialis this morning, and it was all Xenos.
Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So
someone's stocking up.
All of that's been culled, which obviously, if people were using that to play games of Epic or whatever, using some of the online rule sets that are out there, or the fan versions that have been maintained, a big chunk of your capability is just being removed from you. So yeah, interesting.
No more aircraft for you.
I understand why they're going Horus Heresy. It's not going to be one of the mainline things. It doesn't cannibalize 40k because you're not playing 40k. You're playing a different thing. And it means they can shoehorn it into Forge World and then go. It lives over there with the other Horus Heresy. And if they get the uptake, then maybe they'll throw the gaming community a bone and move it into 40k at some point and expand it. But otherwise, I mean, Horus Heresy does nothing for me. I don't care about it. Horus Heresy in epic scale would probably be more interesting, because the things that you shouldn't see on a 40k table, Greater Demons, Primarchs, make more sense in epic.
Well, yeah, because it's a large scale of battle.
So maybe that might be slightly more interesting, but I think it's do you know where the Horus Heresy comes from? This came up in the Talking Miniatures book. It came because they only had the capacity to print or to make one plastic multi-part box set for a long time, and that was Space Marines, and everybody was buying Space Marines, and they needed a way to get people to play Space Marines against Space Marines. So somebody came up with the Horus Heresy.
We should probably write a reason for this to happen.
That is why it exists. We only have one plastic box set. We need a reason for them to fight each other. The Horus Heresy was born. So, it was always very nebulous and just kind of, brother against brother, but Jesus, it's dull when it's two factions that are slamming against each other, pretty much exactly the same.
Something that someone brought up actually is like previously to the Horus Heresy novel series coming out, the Horus Heresy was this mysterious thing that nobody really knew about, and so you could kind of game in the gaps a little bit like you do with Warhammer 40,000. Someone was saying, now all the books have come out and we now know the story from the very beginning all the way to the very end. Essentially, everybody knows what's happened and who lives and who dies. It's one of the things that's nice about 40K is that you can still tell stories that are entirely your own, whereas in the Horus Heresy, it's a little bit almost like historical wargaming. Well, actually, in fact, it is historical wargaming, but within a fictional world where you're like, well, actually, no, I'm going to represent this battle that happened here. And you knew who the winner was, but kind of maybe you're playing around with kind of a what-if situation.
I don't mind that so much. Even with historics, you're often pitting specific forces against each other. I don't know what depth they go into in the books to go X fought Y here. Here was the order of battle. Here was the deployment. Blah blah blah.
Quite a lot of black books that have.
I mean, I don't mind historical refights in that respect, but when you've got a sci-fi universe that you've built up all of these interesting armies, we're just going to focus on the humans fighting against the other humans with the same stuff. It just seems like they're just messing.
You'd want a little bit more.
I want squad land trains. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see some interesting stuff done for this, and we'll have some.
Oh, can you imagine an orc horde in this scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are saying that's one of the nice things about Epic was all the things we've just mentioned there, the weird and wacky things that are so big that wouldn't necessarily be in normal games, or so weird that no one's ever done them before.
You couldn't put an orc bad boy, what you call it, their towers, their wizarding towers, where they just would be pushed around the battlefield collecting psychic energy and exploding things. You couldn't put one of those in a 40k tabletop, or the massive engines of Khorne, or squat land trains, or the huge gyrocopter like fly. There's so many big things, and the point of going to big scale is to show off things like the Titans and stuff, and then just being so. I mean, maybe it will do well enough that they'll go, oh yeah, maybe we should do it for 40k again. I just think they're going to keep things like this separate and distinct from the main line, so they don't have to worry about sort of cannibalizing their own fan base in that respect.
Yeah.
Well, even on top of that, just the workload of trying to convert all of those races into that scale. Be a mountain of work to do.
It's all CAD. You just control scroll. Isn't that how you minimize that? And then go back.
You just give a Space Marine a pointy hat and it's an Eldar, right? I guess.
That's fine. They're not anyway. Like 50 kits a week.
8 mil, definitely,
it'd be no problem. Just divert that. Just put out one less 40k Primaris Lieutenant.
So what, you're just going to scale down all of the 28 mil sprues?
Well, think how many epic models you could fit on a sprue for a Primaris Lieutenant.
Oh my god, you get like a whole company.
How many lieutenants you could get at that scale?
To do a whole army of them. Right. Enough of this. We shall take a quick switch, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at some 3D printing and Kickstarters. Okay, we're back to take a look at some 3D printing. A little bit of a historical one here, Benjamino.
Yeah. So we've talked about Henry Turner Miniatures in the past. We looked at some of their work that they've been doing on, I think it was the Warsaw Pact stuff in a smaller scale, as well as some boats and all sorts of different things that you can use for sort of historical warfare. But there's a Kickstarter coming up very soon, which is all going to be focused around the Napoleonic era and fighting at Waterloo. So I thought it would be a fun idea to dive into what they have on offer over on My Mini Factory, and also have a little bit of a preview of what's coming up as part of the Kickstarter, because it looks pretty awesome and it's very timely considering a particular movie has been showcased on the old YouTubes recently with Mr. Joaquin Phoenix in it. So Henry Turner Miniatures, they do a whole range of awesome 3D printable files for playing out lots of different wargaming periods. They've done a really nice range of stuff that goes from 6mm through to 15mm, which is quite nice. And you've got loads of medieval stuff in there, alongside lots of the Napoleonic and modern warfare stuff as well at the same time. Well, I say modern, but sort of like World War II, World War I as well. Yeah. So, a really nice little selection of stuff for you to dive into and have fun with. There's some really nice little kits and things in there. Of course, one of the nice things about 3D printing at this scale is that you're not having to worry about lots of bits. You kind of just print a bunch of miniatures and they come out as one, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, that's a lot of crew.
Mm-hmm. Well, all these guns probably required a specialist team more often than not. So, yeah. I say a specialist team. It's probably just one guy with a wick.
150 of them. They'll keep those limbers.
We assured you that the bombard would work. It has no wheels. What happens if it explodes? What if it rocks back? I don't know. It shattered its casing and killed everybody around it. Oh, wonderful.
It's fine. Absolutely fine.
But it's a really nice little section of stuff that's been done for those kind of 2 scales, so kind of like 6mm through to 15. What's really nice about the stuff that Henry Turner does as well is that it's all very well researched. So he goes into the books and everything like that, and stuff from the period, and thinks about the kind of weapons that people would be using, the armor and stuff like that as well, to kind of bring you some really nice kind of varied forces to use on the tabletop. The other thing is obviously, like, at that scale, you don't necessarily need a massive amount of detail in your miniatures, but Turner goes into the process of adding quite a lot of that anyway. Yeah. You'll see that specifically when we look at stuff in the Napoleonic period. But
I do like the chunkiness of the sculpts, because at 6mm you want a bit of robustness.
Yes.
Robustosity, as I believe the phrase is, because there's nothing worse than picking up tiny little model that looks spectacular and it's all little bits going everywhere, and then all the little bits have gone onto the floor because you broke them off.
Yeah,
that would be a sad panda.
I do like that he's doing the supports and stuff already in the main designs. So I guess that's just becoming more and more of a standard thing now.
Yeah, I think it's just to make it easier for people, isn't it, really?
So again, it's 3D printing is beginning to get to the stage where it is just plug and play.
Yeah. John's not special anymore. Yeah. Everyone can print amazing things without having to do any tweaks.
Well, I mean, he just got his new Elegoo in, and it seems to be really, really good compared to the Chiron that we had.
Yeah.
Of course, they're keep Chiron medieval stuff until I'm stopped, by the way. So this is all you guys.
No, that's totally fine, Jerry.
Well, the thing that's quite nice about it as well, and I think it's a key thing for this scale too, is that you don't necessarily want your models to just look like blobs. And so I think having the extra kind of slightly heroic element to it, in terms of having the heads be a little bit bigger and the weapons be a little bit bigger and all that kind of thing, is really good, because it kind of works well as a signifier of what's what on the tabletop, and also means that you can make a miniature pop very easily by just adding that little bit of an extra wash to the face to pull out all of the details that Turner has sculpted into it, and suddenly it's very recognizable as like lots of humans fighting rather than lots of little tin cans walking across the table, which is good. So
yeah. Now, to make Jerry sad, what do we have aside from medieval?
Other
medieval things.
Make me sad. I control the clickies.
The other thing that's really nice about this, we'll go on to the Napoleonic stuff, I think, in a second.
That's not medieval.
But the stuff that's really nice about this as well is that we're getting to see the renders for a lot of this stuff, but then Henry Turner's already put in loads of the finished things, which we actually saw for the medieval bits there as well. So you get an idea of the kind of stuff that you're going to be picking up when you dive into the range. The other thing that's nice about the My Manufacture page, and I think you can find some of their stuff, some of the same stuff over on the website as well, is that you've got loads of free downloads as well. So if you want to try stuff out, maybe you've become kind of like interested or intrigued by this scale, but you're not fully committed to just diving in and just doing loads of 3D printing without really thinking about it too much. You can dive in and be like, right, I'll try out a few of these different files and see what it's like and things, which is quite nice.
Cute. A whole variety of figureheads. Because there's obviously open iron, ships, black seas, both have plastic
Yeah.
ships, but it means then that every ship you get of that particular type is the same.
Mhm.
So being able to 1700 is Black Sea scale, I believe.
Now you can have the Centaur's Lament or the Royal Duck hitting the high
if you
seas.
say so. If you say so. There's some slightly larger scale stuff. So 15 mil.
Countries.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of goes into it a little bit because one of the more recent projects was that kind of Warsaw Pact stuff. So it's not just medieval; it's a whole range of different time periods, which has been covered by the Turner Miniatures collection, which is really nice.
Where should I be looking, Ben? You direct me.
If you go to the next link along, so that it'll show the new stuff.
This Prussian 7-year war one, is that what you're saying? No, okay.
With their big paintbrushes. So this is the new stuff that's coming out soon via Kickstarter. So that's going to be happening towards the end of the month, and this is all 15 mil scale. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this is that there's already been 6 mil stuff done for the Napoleonic period.
Wow.
And instead of just embiggening the stuff that already exists to make it fit the new scale, Henry Turner went back in and has kind of rejigged and resculpted a lot of things to match the 15 mil scale. So it's not just redoing old work. It's actually putting new stuff into the mix as well. And this is going to cover a lot of the main factions and armies that would have been fighting during the period with a whole host of different kits. So you're going to have British, French, Prussians, and Landwehr stuff as well. And all of them's going to have infantry, cavalry, command elements, and everything else in between. And this kind of shows off the thing that I was talking about when it comes to the detail. So when you're looking at sort of 15 mil stuff for this period, it could easily be very much like this is just the red and the blue armies going up against each other on the tabletop. But I actually really like that loads of the little details been worked into the armor and the filigree on the jackets and everything else between, and the iconography on their helmets and the plumes and things. So you'll be able to tell a little bit more of like, that is the British kind of thing without it just being, because they're painted red, which I think is quite nice.
Well, if people were paying attention last week, whenever we were looking over the projects, there was the 7 Years' War Prussian one where Jan was having to replace some shako plumes with much taller ones to make a specific grenadier company. The fact that they're distinct enough that you'll be able to go in and see from a distance how they sort of line up and be able to go, well, that's a X, Y, or Z. That's not a stovepipe shako.
So this is all the stuff that's going to be coming out. Obviously, I said they're going to do all of the stuff that you'd expect them to be doing for the period. There may be other things popping up as part of stretch goals and add-ons when the Kickstarter comes out. The other thing that's really nice is they're going to do like a personalities pack as well. So you will be able to get the likes of your Napoleon and everything as well, which is cool. Yeah. And this is why it's all so timely, because oh my days, the Napoleon movie is coming out later in the year. It's actually going to be in cinemas, not just on Apple TV, thank God. Which is going to be charting the rise and probably fall of Napoleon Bonaparte himself.
Spoilers.
Who would have thought things go badly?
Well, when you see a guillotine coming out.
Yeah, but as a lot of people were saying, Commodus, you did get your wish.
Oh, that's terrible.
But in true Ridley Scott fashion, it seems like it's going to be a massive historical epic with really good battle scenes and everything else in between. So if you've not seen that, I'll put a link down to the Napoleon trailer so you can go check it out, and maybe you'll be enticed to come and play some Napoleonic war games on the tabletop.
The only problem with doing a modern Napoleon is that you can't just borrow an army.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, you can, but you have to pay them these days. Yeah. He hasn't said which period of the Napoleonic War he's aiming for, has he?
So it is Waterloo. So it is
so it's the 100
specific
years. Okay.
Battle and stuff. So it's all focused around that kind of thing. So it's the stuff that people will be very familiar with when it comes to the Napoleonic period. But obviously there's lots of mixing and matching you can do anyway. Cool. As I say, I'll put a link in the doodly-doo down below to the free model stuff as well. So if you want to go and check that out, you can. The free models for that Europe Asunder are available now. So if you want to go and check them out before the Kickstarter comes out, you can do that. So you can do some try before you buy, which is
test them in advance.
Yeah.
He's even got a snowman, the most important of all things in free bottles.
Of course.
In fact, I'll just show you that before we go away from it entirely, because there's the Kickstarter samples.
There you go. You can check those out.
Bash bosh.
Got a couple of officers, cavalry models, and infantry as well.
Yep. And the snowman.
A Napoleon snowman.
Caporal Frosty.
Caporal Frosty. I mean, why would you not?
You're walking in the air, but that's
anybody
anybody
who doesn't replace Napoleon on one of the command stands with that, I mean, you're missing out. But
he would have been able to invade Russia.
Yeah, he would have been fine.
It's kind of cool that some of his ships are in there as well.
Yeah.
Ships,
so you've not just got little kits; you can buy big ones.
7 Years' War, shipwrecky things. That's all good. Look, seals. So you don't have to put those cardboard seals on the Black Seas ones if you don't want to. And I wouldn't. But yeah, interesting little pack. Nice stuff in there, including American Civil War. Shay.
Yeah.
We really need to put an order into Bacchus. We should sort that out.
Yeah. Just get on that.
To start this.
Everybody talk amongst yourselves. We're going to have a look at Bacchus's website. Me and Shay's just going to buy stuff.
Yay!
Right. Before we start doing that, we have a couple of Kickstarters to finish the show with.
We do.
First is a bit sword and sorcery-esque.
Yeah, so Sword and Sorcery, which is the epic dungeon delving adventure game from the folks at Ares Games, which has spanned multiple expansions and new quests, is going to be sort of capping off its current chronicle, as it were, with a sort of Cthulhu-based mythosy climax, which is always nice. So this new set is called Abyssal Legends, and this sees your immortal souls, who are your heroes for the game, who are sort of ancient heroes of old who have been brought back from the dead to defeat new and deadly foes, going up against something a little bit weird and wonderful with an elder element to it, as you can see. Tentacles and wings. Tentacles and wings, boys. You'll be heading off to solve a mystery, delving deep into the bowels of a monastery, and then setting sail on mighty ships to deal with fearsome foes like the creature that you just saw there. There's some new mechanics thrown into the mix for sword and sorcery fans that will be fun. So as I said, you'll be setting sail, so you'll have your own boat that you're going to have to look after. You'll be sort of sailing between different islands and fighting different creatures. You'll engage in sort of gunpowder based warfare, and you'll have to patch up holes in your ship as they get destroyed by some of the strange Lovecraftian creatures that are trying to destroy you. There's also an entirely new fighting style in the game, which again sort of harks back to the black powder side of things, where you can have guns now, which is cool. So you can shoot people with flintlocks, but you've only got so much ammo, and you need to decide exactly what cards to play with that as you're fighting through, which is really cool. And your little ammo ticks down in your gun, which is really neat. Oh, it's a nice little thing.
Always save the last bullet.
It's fun but weird. Yeah. There's also really fun new rules in there for fear and phobias, which makes sense because you're going to be going up against some sort of Cthulhu-y abyssal lords. So throughout the game, you might be subject to fear. When you go up against creatures that cause that, you'll be drawing cards that might sort of tweak things just slightly for your characters. So it might make things slightly harder, or it might give you certain boons that will then come with a bane later on. And in some cases, it might even turn you into a winged nightmare creature where your body warps and changes and you become a creature of the night yourself that stalks around the battlefield.
You the risks.
What's really nice is that it kind of, as I say, caps things off for the Sword and Sorcery Ancient Chronicles at the moment. So it's kind of like it brings things to a head. And the Kickstarter allows you to pick up the actual Abyssal Legends box itself, or, so for example, if you have everything, but if you've never tried out Sword and Sorcery before, you can get everything as part of this campaign. So you can pick up the original core game as well as all of the additional boxes and expansions that have come out for it and everything else in between. So you get all the models, you get all the tiles, you get all the cards, you get all the characters and all their expansion stuff as well. There's even a glow-in-the-dark Abyssal Lord with a translucent water base. Why wouldn't you want to do that? So you can play by candlelight.
I thought you were going to bring him to bed and use him to read books.
That too, and you have
that.
To read
that has got to be the
Lovecraft
scariest nightlight ever.
I had a Mr. T one when I was a kid.
Yeah, read further into the book. Yes, You also get new heroes, you get loads of accessories and all that kind of stuff as well. So you get dice trays and bags and everything else. But yeah, it's a really fun one to dive into if you want to try something that isn't Gloomhaven, I guess. If you want to, as I say, Sword and Sorcery has been around for a very long time. It's well loved. Lots of people have had really good fun with it. It's a fully cooperative experience, so you're not going to be playing against an opponent. You can play it by yourself, or you can just play it with your friends and have fun just trying to best the game, which I think is really nice. And there's lots of different ways for you to take your characters and dive into all the different combat and stuff as well. So yeah, it's one that's a tried and tested dungeon delving experience that is getting kind of this nice little kind of Lovecraftian capstone to it, with these elder creatures, as you can see here. Looks really fun to dive into.
Don't shoot cannons at Cthulhu. It won't do anything. It'll just make him mad.
It'll just make him mad. Yeah,
you don't want an angry Cthulhu.
No.
Although now I have Hey There Cthulhu stuck in my head.
You know, nothing wrong with that. There's social goals as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So there's loads of things being unlocked for this one as it goes through. It's well funded, as you might have imagined. I think there's about 12 days left on this campaign by the time you're looking at it. If you're already a Sword and Sorcery fan, it seems like a no-brainer to come and pick this up and dive in a little bit deeper. If you're someone who's kind of on the fence about diving into something, but you want a big event game that you and your friends can play every couple of weekends during a month, I definitely recommend coming and have a look at Sword and Sorcery, because it's a gem of a little game. So, well, little game, gem of a big game. It's a big fat emerald.
It's a monstrous thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing that we can't even comprehend with our use of Euclidean geometry. We need to move beyond that to actually consolidate it in all forms. Right, that is a massive one. We have one other little teeny tiny Kickstarter.
It is with us then.
From Cernunnos Studios in Canada, or Canada, as I prefer to call them.
Those friendly people.
I always say Canada.
Canada.
So this, which will probably surprise no one at all, comes via the medium of Confrontation's online community. So the gentleman in question who started Cernunnos Studio is just a huge fan of Confrontation. And Confrontation went away, and it was very sad. Sad times for all, but the community has kept it alive. And over the intervening years, he's managed to contact and become friends with various members of the old Rackham design team, including sculptors, artists, painters, and decided that they would revisit Arclash and do a range of hero figures for most, not all, I think it's most of the factions. We're ignoring the humans because they're dull ones. But they all get a new heroic lady, hence the matriarchs here. Ignore that. So the matriarchs are a selection of figures, some of which were sculpted for the original Confrontation. We'll see some of those later on. Other ones were commissioned specifically for the actual Kickstarter campaign itself. I will just say now, it is fully funded, and by fully funded, I mean everything they had planned to do is unlocked. There will not be anything else. So this is just a case of getting the word out there to people in case they're unaware that this exists, because there are some spectacularly nice figures which you can pick up as a bundle for delivery later on this year, or you can pick up the individuals. And there's things like, creepy mid-Nord dwarves, Dakini elves, massive jackal-like orcs, things like this, though. The Uruk, which had been sculpted originally and was never released. There's even a scorpion, so the second incarnation. So some of the heroes in Confrontation, you've got incarnations where they sort of power up.
So cool.
And there was one of those had been sculpted as well, and never made it into actual production. And she comes courtesy of the original sculptor. So Stefan Seaman and Yannick have been involved with this, and then people like some of the original studio painters like Terry Henry, I want to say it is. But I don't think it's that, because he's also a footballer. It might be that. Anyway, ignore it. TH Miniatures Terry, who was a studio painter for them, has come in and done some of the painted models. But you can see they're just... I'm pretty sure his name's something like that. Only this one's much nicer. He didn't deliberately handball to knock Ireland out of the qualifiers for the World Cup's comeback. Not over that one. Still tender. Don't know why you bring it up. Right. But the figures themselves are absolutely beautiful. As you can see here, one of the little Kickstarter add-ons is a little tiny baby Orkling strapped in a papoose on the back of Mummy as she's going. So most of the unlocks have been little things like that. So little add-on to the sculpt or a sculpted base to put under them. But they've just got a wealth of detail, including those really iconic Rackham confrontation style symbols. So the shield design that you would see on some of the Cadwallon figures, or the sort of Celtic leather / metal work with the swirls and the patterns that you see on people like Isabel there, which would be handy for me. I don't know whether or not she's a giant. I never made a giant female, I don't think. Anyway, that aside, 8 currently plus a few add-ons, and the add-ons have tacked in things like a Cadwallon beggar. So if you're after things like maybe a strange elf or a particularly creepy looking spider monkey elf, they are just the worst. The beggar is beautiful though, as you can see there, hobbling along, begging bowl out, crutch under one arm, doing the Lord's own work. There she is, the long-awaited second incarnation of Yaris, I think she was. I have the initial one. The initial one's a really nice model, but very static, very poised in comparison. Just there with dagger and little crossbow pistol arm. This one's just going absolutely boogaloo. And when you put it with some of the other Scorpion models of that era, they look absolutely clinker sham, as I believe they say in France. You can see there's also Saber-Tooth Tiger and the Auroch. That Auroch is amazing. He doesn't come with a base, unfortunately, but don't worry, I've got plenty of them.
The musculature is amazing.
Of course you do.
Well.
Yep.
It's gorgeous work, and I see you've already dove in on it.
Oh God, yeah.
It gets Jerry's seal of approval because it's Rackham. So
there was a couple of things about it. First off, it's Rackham.
Yeah.
Or Rackham adjacent. It's so clear. It's about keeping confrontation alive. Second thing was Cernunnos Studios is a very new group, trying to not encourage, but trying to promote confrontation and keep the game alive. And it's one of these companies where there are figures coming out that are, introducing people to the concept of confrontation, and they're just gorgeous miniatures. But also he has plans. So the idea is for this to be successful, then move on and do some other bits and pieces, and some of those are lurking towards the bottom, so you get to see some of the ideas, or not ideas, but bits and pieces that had been sculpted or were work in progress, and then
big projects.
The company, so Rackham went away. So the fact that these will finally be released, and it's kind of like myths and legends. You hear tales of the original Cypher model that didn't look terrible, that by all accounts John Stallard still, things like that. Thieves, unusual, could be weasels, could be otters, who knows, coming from the next planned project. But there's always talk of them. And then you've got things like this. There was a Titan undead dragon. Now they made 2 dragons. Rackham did a regular metal dragon that was about bigger than the sort of the standard dragons of the day, but not by much. But they also did a resin dragon, which was absolutely phenomenal. The idea of somebody just going back and revisiting those and doing the undead dragon in that style is just mind-blowing. And then a cannon-wielding Mid-Nor Cyclops. Yeah, sure. Why would you not? The Mid-Nor, their take on evil dwarves, which are not undead, but they are seriously bastardized and literally stitched together in places where parts of one dwarf has been attached to other dwarf to make new dwarf, or at least repair the damage done to the old one. So the Mid-Nor were just such a bizarre voodoo-like stitched horror coming at you. So I just love the idea that they're going to come back. I never collected those. I collected the regular dwarves, but it's never to say that the Tyrna board dwarves may get a little opposing force in the future. So yeah, I'm really excited to see this do well, because obviously the Rackham name is gone and people have attempted to do Kickstarters using that in the past and have fleeced the customers. Cernunnos very specifically went, we want people, we're part of the community, we want people to know that this is good to go. So their initial design work, all of the stuff in advance has all been done. The master molds have been made, which is why I'm able to get one that will ship as soon as it finishes, because obviously they can make so many from the master mold to test them. So they had 10 set aside. It's just like, it's literally, there's 10 of these that we can ship out the door. The rest will be made after the funding comes through and they get the production lined up.
The other thing that I thought was really neat about this is to preserve quality. They only run the molds for a certain amount of time.
30, and then they're going to do 30 pulls off a mold.
And then they break the molds and make a new one.
That is early. Depending on sculpts, 40 would not be unheard of. 50 is pushing it for resin before things start to go badly wrong. The fact they're going hard cut, keep the quality. You've got 30 and then get out is great. So I just really want to see them do well, and not just because I'm backing it, because like I said, it's already funded. But it's just been really nice to see people getting involved in the competition community and seeing some of these sculpts and models for the first time. They've also released both French and English cards for the figures, so you'll be able to actually field them. Actually, there she is there. Are you? No, you're not. Okay, just checking. Just see whether or not she was one of the giants.
Squirrel?
Oh, well, I was curious as to whether or not she was a giant. Anyway, it's not got too long left. Oh, no, actually it does. It's about 3 weeks.
It's about 20 days, yeah.
I'm thinking Boris and Cave have actually got a Kickstarter running that only has about 6 days left. Ignore that one. Have a look at that. It's amazing. Kobolds. But yeah, 22 days left on the Matriarchs from Cernunnos, and hopefully it'll be the start of something big for them. Definitely, I want to see more from the studio. I want to see more from those sculptors and creators getting back together. So, yeah, the future's bright. The future's old confrontation stuff. Mid new. I want toys. Right. Before I get completely distracted, I think it's time to say goodbye. Bye. If that's not enough for you, though, you can come and join us on Sunday morning. We'll be over on tabletop.com for the Cult of Games XLBS, where we'll have a sit down, a chat, and look at some yellow demons, which is better than yellow snow in every regards. You can join us for a free 30-day trial if you're not already a cultist. We hopefully will see you then. Otherwise, we'll see you next Friday. Have a great week of gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.